Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Rewind with Ro. I'm your host, Ro Carter, and I have my co-host here.
Rob Smith.
There he is. There he is in the flesh. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Just came home to my very elderly but annoying dog. I love her so much, but she's getting on my nerves.
Okay. Sorry, everybody, for technical difficulties, but we're here. Only a couple minutes late, so it's all good. It's all good. This is our holiday show. This weekend will be Christmas. So if you don't celebrate Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, Feliz Navidad, and all that good stuff here. But I wanted to get a couple of more shows in, try to do 12 before the end of the year. So I'm really excited next week, if Rob's available. I want to do The Best Man, their new series. So I love that. I just love that. This is black folk stuff right here. The Best Man. Now we went to the first movie, the second movie. Now we have a little series. So I'm really excited to talk about that. So that should be fun. So tune in next week. That'll be our last show. Are you available?
Of course.
Okay, there we go. That's our last show before the new year. And then we'll start back up, take a little break for a little bit. Nothing too crazy. We'll be back. So really excited tonight. We have two shows for you tonight. We have a movie and a show. The first movie is Something from Tiffany's. That's on Amazon right now. You can see it. It's not a Hallmark film. One of those cheesy like Christmas movies. It actually is good. It's a really good film. I enjoyed it personally. I can't wait to see what Rob thinks about that later. And then we're gonna catch up with the Royals, Harry and Meghan, on their new Netflix special. It's a 6 episode series on Netflix Live right now. It's number 5 in rankings of shows. It was number 1 for a while now. I think it's in its second or third week. So I just caught up to that. That was intense. So I'm excited to talk about that and see what we feel as Black non-royals. How we would feel if we were royal. So we're going to catch up just a minute and then we'll get right into that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you want to comment, make some noise, let us know you're here and alive. You want to give a shout out to anybody, please let us know. So,
or if you have an opinion about one of these programs that we're talking
please,
about, throw it over in the comments.
Opinions tonight. I think everybody's going to have an opinion on the Harry and Meghan. But anyway, let's leave that for last. Let's start the show off right. You feeling ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All right, let's lock it in, player. Let's lock it in. All right. So something from Tiffany's will start off first. It's on Amazon, as I said earlier. Director's Darryl Wines. He's done a couple other films, a lot of indie stuff like that. Starring Kendrick Sampson. I don't know if you guys remember him from Insecure. Light-skinned brother with the beautiful blue eyes. All the ladies loved him. Him and Issa Rae had a little connection. And then also starring the main host, Zoe Deutsch and Ray Nichols. So it's an interesting movie. One woman's life is forever changed by an engagement ring meant for someone else. So can we give this away, or what are we doing here?
Let's just jump in. Well, you go. Tell me.
Okay, I'm going to give the movie away. So Kendrick Sampson, his character is walking out of Tiffany's with his daughter, and he has a package in his hand. It's a ring because he's going to propose to his girlfriend. And at the same time, he bumps into this guy who bought something else for his girlfriend in Tiffany's. In their collision, the guy gets hit by a cab, and then the story unfolds. Later on, they find out the packages were mixed up. So this has been a story that's been told a million times over, but it has a little twist on it. The next day is Christmas. So when both guys are looking to give their significant others either the ring or the earrings, it's switched. So the girl who's supposed to be getting the engagement ring is now getting earrings, and the girl who's supposed to be getting the earrings is now getting the engagement ring. And we see how the plot thickens from there. So, Rob, what did you think first when you were like, do we want to do a Hallmark cheesy kind of Christmassy thing? But you chose this, so I love it. What do you think going in?
Okay, because I wanted to like watch some Christmas movies so we can do our holiday countdown, which Koku normally does the holiday countdown for blackfilm.com, but we weren't able to do it this year. And I was struggling finding Christmas movies, and I saw the promos for something from Tiffany's.
Hold on, good Christmas movies. Let's add that to the picture, Rob.
Good Christmas
There's a lot of Christmas movies out there right now, but good Christmas movies
are hard to come by. But so I saw this and I was like, oh, Kendrick Sampson, I haven't seen him in a while. He's been doing his philanthropy and really focusing on speaking up for Black Lives Matter. So I was like, oh, I was excited to see him in another project. So one, that drew me to it. And then two, I am, and don't judge me, I'm a huge Shay Mitchell fan because I love Pretty Little Liars. And I was obsessed with Pretty Little Liars. I was one of those people who like binged Pretty Little Liars like a psychopath. And talked about it constantly. So I love her. And I was excited to see that she is playing his girlfriend in the film.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, like you said, when I started watching, I was like, this is actually really well done. I was like, this film it's not like a shabby, weird, they just randomly threw something together for Christmas. It's actually really well produced, well acted. Like everyone is cast perfectly. I think her name is JoJo Gibbs, who's from what's the show she's on? 20s, is that it? Yeah, so it has a really good cast. It's fun, it's funny. It's the only issue I have.
Rob has an issue?
Yeah, well, it's not really an issue. I'm just like, if that happened to me, like if you randomly bumped into somebody and then all of a sudden you ready to jump ship, or nah.
What do you mean? I'm confused. If you bumped
Well,
into...
he because he meets the girl who's supposed to
get you're saying like what?
They're supposed to be better suited or whatever. It just feels like some people was ready to cheat.
No, I think it was very I mean, granted though, we ain't going to a park and just chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my spot. I'm gonna take you. This is my spot. But also though, I'm from New York, player. That's just how we move. You know what I'm saying? That's just, we ain't mean anything by it. We just, hey, we just want to show somebody what we know. And like, oh, you know this too? Oh, that's great. It's a beautiful thing.
Let me go break bread with you and help you out in your shop. Oh, no, come on.
Again, just being friends. Brother can't be friends.
Oh, sorry, I dropped something. We'll leave it down there. We'll leave it.
But I'm saying that was the whole point, right? It's like, hey, I'm being engaged. So the only I would 100% agree with you. So I'm in the grayish area of 25%. And the reason why I say that is because she knows that he was going to propose. Like, he said that straight out, right? So if anybody with any relationship, if someone doesn't say they're engaged or in a relationship in the first 5 minutes, then that means they're open to something, right? Or you got something they may be open to. So he was straight up like, hey, this is what I'm, and then she was like, oh yeah, my boyfriend. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's leave it that way. But he had a scenario and her boyfriend was just, oh my God, this guy, I wanted to punch him through the freaking show, through the screen. He was so annoying. So later on, his character, Kendrick Sampson's character, wants to actually talk. And let me give you his character's name. His character's name is Ethan, which I like Ethan, right? He has a young daughter. She's an amazing young actress. She was really good. Wow. His daughter, Leah Jeffries, she played Daisy. She was unreal as his daughter, like not that annoying kid in a movie, which was nice, and just played along, but like actually being the daughter who was like, Dad, she lost her mom at a young age, and so there's a connection later, which you see in the film.
He's very mature.
Yes, with Zoe's character, Rachel. And so Rachel's kind of like that clueless but lovely girl next door, a white girl next door that you're like, oh, okay, she ain't gonna mess with anything. She's just baking bread. Leave her alone. So even the daughter says, hey, Ma, for a white girl, she's actually pretty cool. And you had to point that out, right? I think just to get the elephant in the room, so Black folks won't be like, what's this movie going? But there really is a great love story here that we really have to really like look for something, and sometimes it's right in front of our faces, and it takes a situation like this for us to realize that. And so no all right.
Look, don't go buy me a Christmas present and then all of a sudden our relationship is on the rocks. Like, nah.
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, listen. Hear me out. Your hometown, right, where you're from and where you started your stuff, and you actually struck out once, and you want to relive. So he's also a writer, and he's in New York, and he wants a second chance to write a book because the first time he did it, it wasn't successful. He doesn't want to give up on his dream, and so he's taking a chance. His girl is from LA. She's on a girls' retreat, and she's going to meet him out in New York. They're going to have a great weekend and during the holidays and have fun. And so big shout out to her. Anybody who's willing to be there in a relationship when there's someone else's kid involved, that's a lot on a relationship. So she was
Yeah.
all about that, which I thought was beautiful, because there are a lot of single dads, and I love, and single moms out there, but I love the powerful moment of seeing a single dad who was there for his kid, loved his kid, had his head on straight, and like doing the right things, and really cared for his daughter. So those are great and positive stories there. The twist later on that happens is the boyfriend won't give back the ring when confronted by Ethan, and then that brings a whole lot of crap that comes up. And so that's the really shady part of that. Like, here's the thing, like, you know, I can't afford the ring. And I love that even though they didn't push the race card, there's definitely a dynamic, right? It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
I can't act a fool, even though this fool just jumped me for my stuff, you know, and I saved his life, you know, and got him to the hospital because he got hit by a car. And this is how he thanks me. And then he doesn't want to be rude and ruin Rachel's moment, being like, you know, she's got engaged. I'm so happy for her. I don't even know her though. So straight up, I would have been like, yo, you got my ring on. That's it.
100%, 100%.
You could have cut this movie about 20 minutes. You know, give my ring. Stop playing. That's the only thing that's not really New York. Because if that was in New York, it's like, yo, man, all right, hold on, I'll be right back. And then 20 brothers would have came in like, all right, give us the ring. Oh, my bad, I'll give you the ring. So I love how it kind of played out. You do mention a great point, like, hey, how much was their love story on the rocks for this to happen?
Yeah.
You know, it didn't just happen overnight. It took some time for them to really find out that they actually had feelings for each other and wanted to feel it out. So I kind of love that part of it. It was cute, adorable, everything. I highly recommend it. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I did. Like you said, I did love seeing the dynamics of the relationships that they developed in the story, the friendships, the romances, the father-daughter relationship. It was altogether really well done. And again, I was pleasantly surprised that I wasn't walking into like a corny, poorly produced, they handed them the script the day before a holiday movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
It felt very intentional. It felt very like they invested in it. It's a good film. I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, there you go. So you can check it out on Amazon. It's on there now. If you're not doing anything, the weather's supposed to be awful depending where you're located at this weekend. Except for Rob, he's in LA, so you know we don't like him. Anyway, yeah, earthquake. Anyway,
we actually had one 2 days
it was
ago.
an earthquake. Yeah, did you feel that the other day?
I did not. I'm usually sleeping when they happen, and everybody's like, "Did you feel the earthquake?" No, not at all.
Did you ever feel an earthquake at all since you've been in LA?
Oh, I have several times, but it's just like, oh, okay, and then it's over.
I lived in LA for what, 5 years? I had 2 earthquakes. Let me tell you something, people. That when you're asleep, it's one thing, but when you're awake, your whole life changes. You're like, oh man, we got to make a travel kit. We got to put this on the side. I gotta have my clothes. You can't sleep naked. You definitely don't sleep naked anymore. If you woke up during an earthquake, you will never sleep naked again. Because just in case stuff happens, you got to get out of your place. That's it.
You don't want to be out in the street just dangling.
All right, moving right along. So this is the big story going on, Harry and Meghan. I love this, right? It's on Netflix right now. It's a 6-episode series. So I always tell them, check it out. It's an hour each. So you got to have some time, man. I've been up the past 3 days, like, whoo, it's long. But it reminded me of a lot of things, right? I forgot how much she meant to us. I mean, I was going back and forth with my girlfriend about this, and I was like, I don't like Meghan, right? And yeah, hear me out first. And we go into that, right? I didn't like Meghan because of how, I guess it was portrayed in the ways that she's now, I am a Black woman. She did the majority of her life through the Hollywood early days. It was like, unless you asked me, I am just a person living my life, and I'm going to do what things allow and open up for me, right? So then later on, you see some things unfold and you understand, like, wow, she's always been this person, always been an amazing person in terms of doing work for others, putting others first, and has a huge heart. Excuse me. And so you see that unfold. So it changed my mind throughout that, but I wanted to get your idea. Like, what did you think first going in here before even seeing anything? What was your opinion of Harry and Meghan, and what did you think we'd find out?
Well, going into it, I've always adored her from a distance. I've always thought she was a great person, and I didn't listen to the headlines during the time when the the monarchy was really trying to slander her and make her out to be this harlot from Hollywood who grew up in the slums and infiltrated her way into their family of Compton, whatever they said. So like when they were trying to trash her and put all that out, I was like, it's to be expected. This is a family who has like blood diamonds around their neck, who's responsible for a huge portion of slavery throughout the European continent. Like I didn't trust them for a minute with a black person walking into the front door. I'm surprised they didn't boot her out as soon as she walked in. So I knew when this was coming out, maybe I wasn't the most objective because I already had my feelings about them, and I already had a perspective where the media there is one is very tabloid based, and two is very unfair to people of color. And I already walked into this knowing that she had to deal with a level of racism that she probably never experienced in her life, and now she's a princess. But what I did gain from this, and I've been having a lot of conversations about this. Val is probably watching, and me and Val talk about this like every day. But I had already walked into this understanding that I was going to learn a lot more of the intricate details of how they were treated. And we would hear first accounts from Harry as to how I was expecting him to equate this circumstance to how they treated his mother, who was ousted after his father cheated on her. And it was a very public affair because the audio tapes of that conversation with him and his current wife were released. So I already expected for him to make the connection between how his mom was treated and then how she was treated and the fear of what could happen. But just them weaving the story together with like detail and with evidence was shocking. Even though I was expecting it, it was shocking. And I don't want to like give too much away or spoil.
Well, let's do this. So I'm going to go by episode, just to give you a brief what episode is doing, and then we'll kind of talk on each one. And then we'll give a final synopsis of things that we felt we may have learned from this, or things that we just, like, oh, wow, I never even knew this could be. So episode 1 shares the impact of Harry's childhood, being born into this, right? Your birthright. His brother is next in line to be king. But again, you're the brother. So if he has kids and everything, you're never going to see the throne. It's not like old school medieval times where there's a setup and trying to kill everybody so you can take the throne over. So chances are he's not going to take over the throne. So him growing up as a kid, he was crazy. I remember young Harry, man, after his mom died, he was a wild redhead, man, having a good time, drinking a lot, getting in trouble until he got into the military. And he wore the Hitler. I forgot he wore the Hitler outfit on Halloween. I was like, yeah, man, he was crazy back then. But then he was just trying to figure it out. And I couldn't imagine, right, being a kid growing up in that limelight, and then your mom passes away at such a young age. So that impact of, that nurturing aspect of a woman, maybe your grandmother was there. You're trying to figure that out still. But having that woman to say, hey, I love you, I care about you, versus like, no, Harry, you have to do this right. You have to do this right. You're going to be king soon, or you're going to be this yet, or you're a prince. You have to know this and that. And so they kind of reflect on his life. What do you think about that? And then it goes into the unexpected romance of how they kind of met.
Yeah, I similar to what you said, it was very interesting to see a firsthand account of a person who's taunted by paparazzi from the day they're born. Like, you're born and you're immediately paraded out into the world, into the media, and then every breath you take is basically owned by the tabloids and the people, because you are living off of public money. So basically you're trading the privacy of your life for the ability to like sustain yourself off of this money. So like just the reality that they had to constantly put on this show for people at a young age, they had to learn to just put on the show, it's very telling. And then when he graduates from high school and then wants to go off to, when he wants to start in his formative years, we all make mistakes in our formative years. We all do dumb things. We go out, we get drunk, we act a little bit crazy, we hang out with the wrong people, we make a bad decision, we skip a class, we all have had an opportunity to find ourselves and make mistakes and not be judged for them. But when you're a prince,
and magnified times 1,000.
Magnified times 1,000. So I can't even say that he was a wild child. I just think that like
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'll take that back. Yeah, you don't.
his mistakes as an adolescent were just blasted across the cover of tabloids, and the headline is "Wild Child Harry." You know, it's like he can't make any mistakes. He gets drunk at a bar and then he wants to leave, and as soon as he walks out, there's 70 people at the bar taking pictures of him walking out drunk and in his face and following him, so he hits one. Like, it makes sense. Like, you're being harassed. If someone did that to us on any given day, we'd react. But he can't. Like, and at a certain point, it's gonna be like I guess like a teapot. It's gonna bubble over. You know.
I think us as a generation, the only thing I remember is the Bush daughters, but we haven't had like two sons of that level. But the Bush daughters, they had to, they were party girls in college.
And so, they tried to do it to the Obamas.
Yeah. But they were still too young. So luckily, it was like Obama now, like I'm out of there. So you still hear about them, but it would have been, oh my God, I can't imagine 2 young black girls in oh God. Because you heard some stuff afterwards. I couldn't even imagine.
Exactly.
We got a little taste of that from the American side, but yeah, to see that times 100 was crazy. And then also learning how they met, and I love how they talked about Harry's side of it, like when he dated, like how many people, like he was like, oh, I love this, I'm getting to date a prince, but then like, oh my God, paparazzi, all this other stuff. That's not what I want. I'm not really ready to sign up for that. So knowing that your relationships are always going to be in jeopardy because you're just all this comes with that. Not knowing what you're getting into until you really see it.
Yeah.
That was crazy to me.
And also on that point, it was very interesting to hear the conversation around how you don't know if a lot of the relationships that have been formed, like the selection of a bride, are authentically from the heart, because at the end of the day, they had to ask their grandmother for permission to marry whoever they wanted. So there was a pressure also to find a person who would fit into the world of the monarchy. So, they had to be a person who could deal with the pressures of paparazzi, like you said, a person who was philanthropic at heart. It had to be a person who, of course, aesthetically met the idea of what he should be walking with. So there were all these kind of like unspoken rules of of the pressures felt in finding a mate, that I think they hinted at. Some people are not really in love with the people they marry, but it's just, a marriage of convenience because it's a person who they're expected to marry. And I love that they were flashing certain pictures when they were having that conversation.
Yes, there's playful stuff throughout. When we go into episode 2, we learn more about the relationship and when it becomes public, but also we learn about Meghan a little bit and how much she was an activist throughout her career. So before she met Harry, she was always an activist, right? And then she was an actress. We learn more about her becoming an actress and how her love for acting and how it finally worked out for her. So everything wasn't just handed to her on a silver spoon. And so I kind of love that, right? You kind of get to learn who she was as a young lady and her relationship with her dad. It was such a tight-knit relationship, which kind of baffles you later on, right? How does this go so crazy? But hey, I guess everybody has a price at the end of the day. So anything that you learned there were you surprised about her activism at such a young age, or anything like that surprised you at all? You kind of had an idea that she was like that to begin with?
No, that part I didn't know. And it was really good to see that as well, because I think they did such a good job, which was what they needed to do. They did such a good job of framing both of them as really loving, giving, caring people. And you could see from the evidence of the trail of positivity they've left through life, that these are actually two purely authentic, good people who do have an affinity for giving. They're philanthropic. They care about the people around them. They're actually good people. And there's no denying it from the conversations, from the proof, from the evidence, from the way the story was laid out, from her elementary school teachers to her friends now, to all of the people she's worked with in her career, to the trail of people who she's collected over her life, who all fawn over this woman and have nothing but positive things to say about her. And the fact that it's the proof is there. She would leave set and she'd fly off to Africa to do, you know, some work for people who needed help. You know, that was what she was passionate about. Even the point where, like, when the first taste she got of activism, out of which I also don't want to spoil for people who haven't seen it, but when she was a kid, she saw a commercial and she felt that it didn't necessarily portray a group of people in the best possible way, and she did her due diligence as like a 12-year-old to speak up for it and was able to affect change in that way. So you just see the lifespan of this woman who actually, like, is great.
Yeah. And again, I always go back to the receipts, right? You got receipts, you good. You know, that clears your name no matter what. So since the get-go, before I met him, I was about this life. And now I open up his mind to being about that life as well. And so I love that you see Harry in, like you said earlier, in a different light, but also as a human being, right? You see him kind of struggle with understanding, one, that, hey, this is my family, and I understand this is my brother's birthright at the same time, but understand, hey, man, there's more to this. You know, I don't want to be hand tied to this family and what they do to you and what they do to us. And again, I don't really get anything. I get a barn to live in. You know,
Right.
Yeah,
that was weird.
Right? I was like, we don't get a castle, no, little house. No, you get a barn, so you get a barn. So and that's what kept it like, okay, all right, relax, chill. Don't go all Hollywood on me. So we go into episode 3. This is when the engagement starts, right? We're getting sparks. You're hearing they're gonna be engaged. And so I remember, listen, America, especially Black people, we fell in love with this story. We fell in love, like, oh my God, we could be a prince. And then she's gonna get married. Oh my God, it's gonna be Black kids. And hopefully they'll be black. And then you see, not that light skin mix.
That wasn't gonna happen. Come on.
We want that chocolate. We want that chocolate, that good melanin, you know, so we can be like, that's us. We're in there. And it's not because we like them, but now then people see us on a different stage. And I totally forgot what that felt like at that time, right? I mean, we go into them just grappling with the tabloids and stuff, and how they admired her on such a high level, and then they just crapped on her later. And you see this huge tailwind when she starts to pick up all this love and admiration for who she is, and how, you know, they tell you, hey, London's becoming very mixed, you know, so it's the way the country is, you know, the way the world is. It's just groups of so many different people living under one umbrella. So it's not just all white like it used to be. So that, with understanding of that, you'd think you'd be more like happy to have her there. And they were in the beginning, but then, you know, the monarchy is like, yo, she is not going to be the prince or next in, and even Harry's not next in line. So we need our attention back on us. And so when you see that kind of twist, you're like, oh, and it's crazy when you don't even want the, you know, they didn't want that. And that's the hardest part, is people not believing them and saying, hey, we really don't care about that. We're always going to be these people no matter what, you know, and you learn that twist later on. That actually blew my mind, just the crap they had to go through.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the effect she had, not just on England, but the effect she had on the world and their relationship on the world. Because, and I think that was the major mistake of the monarchy, not accepting her in the way they should, is she is the face of most people, like most people who don't see themselves in your family now see a semblance of themselves. So they see a woman of color who doesn't necessarily, she's not the blackest Black person who's
again, she's not even a mother's complexion. She's not
exactly even... So it's like there's a semblance. People see a semblance of themselves, and they saw the possibility of something great. And I think that could have worked to the benefit of the monarchy, considering they colonized countries that are,
I mean,
predominantly people of color. So and raped them of their resources, but. I feel like they really should have taken a step back and listened to the few people in their circle who were saying, you know what, this is probably a good thing.
Yeah. But that goes across the board, right? In the UK, in the tabloids, they said one of the biggest things is like, we have no Black people here working for here. So it's basically, we don't know if it's right or wrong, right, what we're saying, because we have no one of color to actually go to and say, hey, you represent these group of people. I don't want to label that there, right? But unfortunately, if there's only two of us in a circle with predominantly or one minority, they're gonna go to every now and then and be like, hey, so what do you think? Is this okay? Or they should at least. And so they had nobody to even like run ideas of. Is this messed up? I remember they used the word niggling, and I was like, and that word, it's a Scandinavian word, and it means causing slight but persistent annoyance or discomfort or anxiety, right? And they use that to describe them or describe her in particular. And I remember it was like, and the guy who wrote the article, he's like, listen, it's a Scandinavian word, its origin is so.
They always had an excuse for the racism
because. But I'm like, listen, you could have used any other word, but the N-I-G-G, it's spelled N-I-G-G-L-I-N-G. It's like
they're so intentionally racist, and then they always have an excuse as to why they didn't mean it that way, or I didn't think about that when I posted a picture of the monkey. I didn't think about that. I just saw a picture of a monkey and thought it was funny. No, you knew what you were doing. Yeah. Or I wore this brooch. I didn't think about it that way. It was very intentional, you wearing that brooch. It was very intentional. You never broken that brooch out of your jewelry case.
Right.
Black women walk.
You know what though? Hold on. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna give the brooch a benefit of the doubt. You know why?
I'm not.
No, hold on. I know people that just like have no clue because they think, oh, I think she would actually like that because
because it's a slave.
No. They're not even putting that together, brother.
She knew. She had this piece of jewelry in her. She had that piece of jewelry in that jewelry box for years.
I won't go for her, but I think there's people out there that are so ignorant, right, and have no clue the history of half the stuff they wear, and they just put it on. That was my point in that.
They all over there know the history of that form of art. They all know the history of it. And yes, it's common knowledge over there. Like if the pictures, granted the brooch doesn't have a face on it, but all of the paintings and the figurines are all slaves.
Honestly, I really think that in my mind of minds, I really think like, oh, this is grandma's room, right? It doesn't even hit them of what is there. Listen, I could be completely wrong and blame me for being naive, but I really think some of them go
her
into
hope is that we're going to be naive. That's why she broke that out. She dusted it off. She polished it. She spit.
So was Megan. Megan was naive to go into this and think like, oh, nothing's gonna go wrong here.
Oh, like, we can have that conversation too because that's gonna come up later. This is the only gripe I have with her, but I don't. It's not really a gripe. But we'll have that because that comes in another episode.
We got 2 more episodes left, right? So we're going to episode 4, where now we have the wedding. I remember this day, all the celebs that were invited. It was like Black royalty was there. I was like, oh my God, like everybody we saw. And we felt, this is like one of the only times, minus 9/11, that I felt unity, and it was like, we just saw a beautiful, and Obama getting in office, like it was just like a beautiful time in history where like everybody's like, oh my God, we're excited, right? You saw people over there excited. White people were excited. Everybody was excited. There was no
race. They were all excited.
Yeah, everybody was just excited to see this. And then when you see her talk about music and the song selection and just her eyes just lit up and wanted everybody to have a good time and just dance. And I remember when the Black choir was there. Oh my, I was like, yo, I was so touched by that moment because that was so big for us, right? We were singing on another stage. They ain't never had that. But it was such a beautiful moment to be caught on film, and the whole world saw that, right? But it felt good, right? It was like, this felt like us. I was like, there we go, we're represented. And so I think that's just a bigger picture. We want to be seen as human beings. Again, we always argue like, but we just want to matter. That's it. And so now you got to see us on a big screen, like, oh, we matter. A woman of color actually being invited in, whether, maybe not invited, but coming into this new world that we only dreamt of, and we rarely just get a Disney movie about it, right? We it's never been there, but we are kings and queens, but our story hasn't been able to put out there on the big screen because we don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. But now we see each other on the screen and we see that we can be this. It makes us work harder and pursue that happiness. So that was a beautiful and touching moment. I totally forgot that. That blew me away. What do you think about that?
I thought it was the perfect lead up to the next episode, which it showed in the beginning. They were like, okay, we're not excited about the fact that this Black woman is about to walk up in this house, but maybe we'll see what happens. Maybe
He walked you down the aisle, bro.
yeah, I was like, that's why I was like, okay. They were like, maybe this could work in our benefit.
Yeah.
I think they had that conversation, but then I think they also had the conversation of like just just making sure that they gave the impression that they cared enough. So they had the gospel choir there. They had his father walk her down the aisle. But also it kind of started to show you like the control that they were going to start to take over her life, which was interesting because another part we didn't really talk about was the introduction of her niece, who we find out she never really had a relationship with her half sister, who was the daughter of her father, so she was fully white. And they talk about how she rarely ever saw the sister because the sister didn't live with the father. This
the age difference was so big, right? She was like
age difference. I think she was like 17.
I didn't even really know her.
Yes, she's like, I never really knew her. I met her like 2 or 3 times. And then she didn't know her sister had a daughter because the sister had a daughter and a son who were raised by the grandparents because the sister didn't raise her kids.
Yeah.
And she didn't even know that she had a niece. And
they were more ghetto than there's
a lot going on that side. And so she ended up developing a relationship with her niece, who became like one of her best friends.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see how the monarchy was so concerned about the press. And that's another interesting thing from the very beginning that we learned, how the press, sort of how the White House has the press corps. So every day when they go to the White House, the press all have like their spot. So they know they're going to constantly get news every day from the White House. So they're there, they're ready to go. It's interesting how the palace have a representative from each tabloid that have a spot in the office in the palace. So they're in their house every day and just waiting for and creating news. So it's like they can just be like, Roe tripped Rob yesterday in the street and then hit him over the head with the umbrella. And they can just put the story out without any proof.
Or Rob was jealous that Roe was this amazing blazer, on the show the other night, and they're not talking now.
And I was and it's like they could create these narratives and just put whatever out. And then I got to wake up every day and you in my house.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm like, it's so crazy how they felt that they have no control over the media and the media can just say and do whatever they want. And then they end up controlling, or they end up interfering in the relationship with her father and creating a narrative about her and her sister. And then now it's dictating who can even come to her wedding, who she's related to.
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the world? It's crazy. It's nuts.
And then that's where they kind of make, we don't want to hear women's stories when they're telling the truth about things. We make them look crazy. And that's what they try to do here. They try to make Meghan look crazy. I mean, the stuff they were doing, when you see the breakdown of stuff, you have to really watch this, because I was like, wow. I was like, I don't even know how long, because at first I was like, you know what? We get later on to their houses being like, they're being watched under surveillance 24/7. That's a whole nother crazy thing. But then these words, the things, conversations you didn't even have, or they'll literally, you'll write a letter to your dad or somebody else in your family, and then they'll get the letter
or
out and take one sentence.
What they did was they told her to write a letter to her.
Oh, that was crazy too. When they told her to do that, I was like,
they told her to write a letter to her dad, and then told the press she was going to write a letter to her dad so they could intercept the letter. Like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, it's and again, I wonder how much who was really involved, right? Is his dad? How much is his dad involved? Because he said that's the only thing I just told my dad that. I didn't tell anybody else. I didn't tell my brother. And then I guess when she starts after the wedding, her status just blows up, like bigger than the queen, and so it's like, whoa, you ain't going. This ain't yours, baby girl. You better chill. And I think if people remember to like, hey, I know the tabloids are doing that, but as long as she's still herself, let's just keep that going, because it's another revenue or avenue that we've never been down before. And who knows, maybe we can open up to people liking us again and forgiving all the bad that we used to do, that where we got our fortune from, right? You got to remember that that's still where your money's from. So now if you have somebody that kind of looks like them and is going out there to speak on them on their behalf, let them have it. Why not? Like, who is their media people? I want to know. It's like, what are you guys doing? They don't.
But I think that rolls into the next episode, right?
Because so episode 5, private correspondence with their families, leak the couple's crucial decisions. They basically want to get out of here because she keeps finding out that, hey, anything we say is being twisted and turned around against us. And then the online campaigns. You spoke on it earlier, Rob, with her half sister. Come to find out that she actually has accounts, that are being put out there, 82 accounts that's spitting all this hate. And then they go to speak to her later in a lawsuit, and it's like, well, that wasn't me. Someone hacked my account. Girl, get the hell out of here. Like, listen. I've never seen so much BS excuses for people's acts, of violence or just ignorance and disrespect in this show. It's just right in front of your face. You're like, what? And they're like, well, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. We didn't do that. She said that. We didn't twist. We didn't take our words out of order there. So it's kind of crazy to see that. And then you see the relationship with her dad. They go and show some old films of her, and she was daddy's girl. She was all about her father. And then now the tabloids coming in, and they're having to write the story and going back and forth. You don't really know who her dad is anymore, right? Like, did they get to him? Because they find out later, hey, I'm going to give you $100,000. If I don't have anything anyway, any income, you give me $100,000 in tabloid, I might take it. I mean, I don't know, Rob. Am I taking $100,000?
No, like her mama said, that's your child. I don't care how much money you stick in my face. That's
boom, Rob. Boom, Rob. Let them know.
It's the truth. And it's so powerful how they strung these 2 episodes together, because you see the wedding, you see them like, okay, maybe we'll have a gospel choir, we'll do these few things to appease them, to show the world we're accepting. But 6 months in, like you said, this woman is popular in a way that they could not have imagined. She is already like done more for the people in England than they have done. People who are affected by tragedy. She's like done more for them. So now she's wildly popular there. Then her and Harry are touring the other countries. They're in Australia, they're in Africa, and they're on the cover of every magazine, every newspaper, everywhere. And nobody's putting up Kate. Nobody's putting up the Queen.
I'm like, Kate who? Who's Kate? And I think maybe Kate, listen, Kate's not interviewed at all. This the picture of her, but I believe Kate's one of those girls.
What one of
those girls that are hating.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh man,
absolutely. Because
like with her girlfriends having tea, like this chick, I can't believe her. And then her other girlfriends are feeding her too.
When Megan got up from the table, Kate was spitting in that teacup.
Oh, 100.
She from when Kate first walked into that family, everybody loved her.
Yeah.
Everybody talked about was her. She was the new it girl. She was on the cover of every magazine. She was on the cover of every newspaper. But now you got this beautiful American actress who's half Black, and now the world is like, she is it.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do,
please, but see me though. See me.
They put her this big and put you this big, because she's the story. Even if she didn't want to be, even if Megan didn't want to be the story, she's the story. And I'm like, y'all, it's only 6 months in. It'll probably die down in a year and a half. Let's get them some time to like. People love them right now. People loved you when you first walked in the door. But like you said, it was a problem. And I think it was more of a problem because it was this Black woman. And she was already like naturally philanthropic. She was already a person. She walked into it with grace, and she walked into it successful. Her first tour, walking around the street, people screaming, fainting, crying, wanting to hug her. It was too much for them too soon. And I don't think they were ready for that.
Well, that's what I think a reminder of Diana, right? And they've seen this before, right? It's like when certain people see this, oh, I've seen this before. We got to stop this now.
Yep.
I know it's going to happen. But they never let it live out, right? They never let it live out. They always want to stomp it out before hey, it actually becomes something beautiful where we
Yep.
all can live and learn from it. And maybe it makes our kingdom even better. And so we're just not ever prepared mentally for that. We always fear the unknown, right? And so because we fear the unknown, we want to do everything to stop it.
You hit the nail on the head. It was the Diana syndrome, and they were like, we've seen this before. She's too popular. She's not the person who's supposed to be popular. Yeah. And why is she getting all of this attention? Because Diana was such a symbol of like love and acceptance. She was going into hospital wards kissing babies with AIDS, and they were like, why are you touching these people? She was the one kissing little black babies and picking them up and hugging them. She wasn't like holding them up by the
like this, like, hey.
She was actually a person who cared about people. So here we are. We have another example of that. And that's why I love that they kept saying, how do you think your mother would have
felt? Yeah, I was going to say that was the most touching moment in the film and in the show. And they asked Harry, he was like, oh my God, they would have been
best friends.
Been like thieves, and they were just the same person, right? And it's almost like his mom was reincarnated in her. Isn't that crazy?
Yep. He found his person, and I think they did a great job of showing he found his person.
Wow, Rob, that's deep because I didn't think about that. Yeah, he found like a little bit of his mom in the person he loves, right?
Yeah,
because he didn't have his mom, and he found like that's her. That's deep.
Yeah.
Hey, Tiffany, we do a lot of stuff here. Rewind with Rob. So episode 6, how we close out the couple rides in California. So now a couple of things are going on this time. They're trying to find a place to live because now they've left the monarch. They're going to do things on their own. And because of that, it's the wild, wild west. And what I mean by that means nobody's protecting you anymore. You have no security. You have no one protecting you. Tabloids. They were doing it anyway. Now, no one is defending you. They can say whatever they want about you. And you just have to tough it up.
Suck it up.
And so now they're trying to find out what to live, but COVID is coming in as well. So as we see COVID come in, they're going to close the border. And so they were fearing the house that they were in up in Canada was already being under surveillance 24/7. I mean, people walking on their property, I'm like, I'm setting up, it's Home Alone on steroids, bro. I'm setting up booby traps everywhere. You ain't going to touch my stuff. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you ain't touching anything. And so from there, they're like, hey, we got to get out. And then a friend comes along, which really isn't their friend, but they call him a friend. I'm like, okay. So shout out to Tyler Perry, comes in, saves the day, and gives them a place to stay. And then you kind of see them kind of come back together. And we're able to like, ooh, take a breath mentally and kind of figure it out. But within that, Megan goes through some personal issues later on. And you kind of try to, understand that as a woman, kind of dealing with that and dealing with the issues of like, hey, not knowing if some idiot's going to come and like, be in your bathroom, you have no idea. And I wouldn't even know how to do that. So what did you think about the final episode? And did you learn anything different about them as it's society and how we treat people?
Yes, it's disgusting that people literally called for her to be murdered, literally called for their kids to be murdered. Like the fact that people would put stuff out like that, like for no other.
For what? Yeah, for what? I mean, what did they do?
No reason other than the fact that monarchy put out so much bad press about her because they were so upset that she was popular.
Yeah,
that people put death threats out for her and her kids. Like,
that's crazy.
And for him to have lost his mother so tragically and to now see his wife dealing with that, there's no other response I would expect from him than to say, you know what, F y'all, we out. Like, I don't need this.
And to add on to that, Rob, that's the only thing I was shocked about, that he was, because again, think about that. Your whole life, you've been a part of this, and now you were able to just leave. But he said, hey, I had to reflect and look and like, oh my God, my wife is going through something so awful. I didn't see that. I didn't understand that before. Now I see it. Now I understand.
Yeah.
It's going to make her sick. She's going to kill herself.
She lost a baby. Like,
yeah, that's crazy. And to really understand that, I mean, there were some moments they talk about like he had no friends really, right? You see Megan had her girlfriends, but he had nobody. You lose your brother, your boys are like not really even like, I don't even know who his boys are at that point, right? Because you don't really see him like have that man interaction. And that's sometimes how we are as guys. Guys were like, oh man, he ain't hanging out no more. He ain't cool no more, you know that. But I was shocked at that level that you didn't have someone that you can really confide to. So I really felt for him the most, even though Megan was getting all this crap, because there's this time you're just like, yo, I don't know what I'm going to do too. I got to be strong 24/7 for her, my family, because I know how crazy my family is, right? But now there's a new aspect I never even knew about because I was too young to even understand what my mom was going through. Now I'm seeing that time saying like, and I got to keep it all together. Now, plus I have no money coming in. So now I got to work on another hustle now to support my family. What am I going to do? Well, you know, what does my resume say really, right? You know, Prince, I was in the military, but really, like, what do you have that can say, hey, I actually did this and that can give you this job that's gonna support you, the prince, right? It's like the one of those story tales that always comes around. Where like you lose your shoe, you lost your crystal shoe, now you go back to being this homeless person and kind of working on the streets, you know. And if you've never had the hard work ethic in you, or just didn't have to do it, I should say, because it seems like Harry had that.
yeah, he had it.
Yeah, but not to know what to do with it later. It's kind of like, wow, what do I do now? I'm starting from scratch. So it was very interesting to I had to empathize with him for a little bit instead of always empathizing with Megan. I was like, oh shit, Harry's going through some stuff too.
Yeah.
You don't really see that as much, but it's definitely more Megan forward.
And I am so annoyed by all of the press who say, oh, they're just whining. Oh, how dare he talk about his mother?
Yeah.
It's his mother. You talked about his mother all day, every day. You can't talk about his mother? What? You sound
it's similar to comparing to somebody like, everybody forgets Martin and Malcolm. They were not held at the high regard in the period in time, right? Now we hold them at that height, right? So back then it's the same thing, right? You're comparing her to Princess Diana. I was like, Princess Diana, you guys crapped on her too back then. It was not until later as you kind of respected what she was
after y'all killed her.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like it was crazy how we kind of do that in society. Ugh.
Yeah, ignore. This is my note to anybody out there who's on the fence because they heard somebody like Piers Morgan or somebody say, "Oh, they're just whining. Don't watch them," because they're defending the monarchy. Watch the documentary.
Yeah,
just watch it. Like, watch it. It's so good. Take an opportunity to listen to somebody other than tabloids and listen to these two people who lived the experience, who lived the trauma, who are sharing their trauma. Yeah, they were royal, they were rich. So what? Just because you're rich doesn't mean you don't deal with trauma. And I hate when people make the analogy that like people who are in the public eye, whether you're a celebrity or a politician or royal or whatever it may be, that they don't have their own trauma, because money doesn't always solve trauma. Quite often it causes more. And these are people who were forced to live in the limelight and were forced to do so because they live off of public funding and were forced to accept whatever the world said about them, even though they woke up every morning and did their best to give of themselves to other people. And to see them ripped apart and torn down by the people who are supposed to take care of them and protect them is awful. And everyone should watch it. And if you don't watch it, I don't know what to tell you. If you're Black, please watch
it. To piggyback on Rob there, you know, I went in there. I'll be honest with everybody. I started it. I was like, oh, I don't want to watch this. And my girl, now she's mad at me now. She was like, you're not going to watch it with me. I was like, I don't want to watch this. And then we talked about like, yo, let's add this. And I'm like, oh God, I'm going to watch this now. And I went in there with so much hate. I did. Trust me, people. I went in there with so much hate, but it actually opened up my eyes and I was like, wow, okay. And I felt for Megan. I mean, the only thing I ever had was like the naivete of her to be like, you know, oh, nothing's going to happen. I could just be this mixed woman and go into this royal happiness and just be like, oh, everything's gonna be great. And so that's the only thing that I was so just like, ugh, you can't hide this, right? And she was able to for so long until some people started questioning her later when they had to check her credentials. And so for me, that was so frustrating because we can't hide this. I can't say to myself one day, you know what? I want to take the day off from being Black today. And I want to just go to the store, run some errands today and not think about me being Black today. And you know what? It only happened to me one time and well, a couple of times in my life, but it's only when I'm either in Europe or when I was in Japan. And I told somebody this, when I went to the grocery store, it was amazing because I didn't have somebody looking in the back and thinking about I was going to do something. It honestly blew my mind. Like to not have that energy around you changes everything, right? And so that was my point. Like I felt that, and I felt some kind of and angst against her because I was like, she got a chance to like just unplug. And a lot of us don't get, especially Black women, they don't get that opportunity just to say unplug from the world. And that's why I took that so personally, being raised as a single mom. Like my mom never got the chance to unplug and be like, hey, I need a day off. I need some time. She never got that chance. And so that's why I was really upset with her. But then I had to learn, wow, it's bigger than what I thought it was. And by seeing her out there, it's opened up doors for young Black and women across the world, not just in America, across the world. So it's a bigger picture of that. So I highly recommend, as Rob did as well, to definitely check that out. It's a great story. It's a lot. Listen, man, if it's everything you want, right? You want that love story, that Hollywood thing, but then down to earth moment. You see a little bit of everything, and it's beautiful. Really, it is. And listen, I want the soundtrack. The soundtrack's amazing. All the music. No one talks about the music. The music that I don't know how much they had to pay for that, but the soundtrack's amazing. It's just such a good time, and you really feel like you're a part of their family, right? It was like an inside scoop to really understanding how the royal family works, because Harry's letting out all the secrets, and so you're like, damn, Harry, keep some things hush. Like, nah,
no,
man,
don't keep much. Put it all out there. Put it all out there. But they're never gonna respond.
Yeah. And so again, definitely check these out again. Before we go, I'm gonna give a rating as we close it out. Oh man, this is Rob's favorite time. All right, Rob, we saw two things tonight. It was Something from Tiffany's, again on Amazon, directed by Daryl Wines.
Thanks for the thumbs up, Val, but go ahead.
What'd you think?
Something from Tiffany's. I am going to give an 8.5. I thought it was well done. I enjoyed the performances. Again, I walked into it thinking it was going to be a cheesy Christmas movie that they just slapped together in 2 days, but it was actually extremely well produced, well performed, great story. But the only reason I'm taking a few points off is because I was like, don't come up in my house talking about you bought me a gift and then you want to bumped into somebody. Now
you took it personal.
I took it personal. I don't play that. Nah. Slap you over the head with that bag.
I'm gonna give it an 8. For if it was like a Hallmark, like cheesy Christmas movie, I'd give it a 10 because it was a really good, fun Christmas movie. It was a good love story, but overall, as a movie for itself, I'll give it an 8. Good time. Check it out on Amazon. All right, and our last one, Harry and Meghan on Netflix. What do you rate this, Rob?
I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Everybody go watch it so you can learn about the beauty this couple. Val's laughing at me. That's fine. It's a 10 out of 10, Val. Go watch it so you can learn about this beautiful couple and this beautiful romance and the tragedy of the disgustingness that those people, and I'm wagging my finger at those people for the disgustingness of how they treated this family. That is your son. That is your daughter-in-law. And those are your grandchildren. How dare you? How dare you?
That's the same way he spoke to
10 out of 10.
Yeah, his dog is going to be in trouble there. I thought it was good as well. You give 10s away like nobody's business. I was shocked at 85 earlier. I'm going to give it a 9. And the only reason I give it a 9 is because I wanted to learn more about Harry's side, right? I think we just got to dust, about it. It's really immersed in kind of Meghan and what she did, because again, there was a lot of her dealing with that, but seeing how Harry felt in his relationship. So I would highly recommend it, though. Check it out. Again, I went in there with hate, and I came out with love. See that? You see that? There we go.
Still
So
think
happy holidays, everybody. Any last words, Rob, before we go?
go watch it.
All right. That's okay. No happy holidays. Okay, Rob doesn't care.
Happy holidays, but when we go, happy holidays. Enjoy your weekend. I'm gonna be just eating food at random people's houses, so enjoy.
Right. Okay. All right.
I didn't even put up my tree.
He was supposed to be in a Christmas outfit tonight. He didn't. He just put a hoodie on. Yeah. All right.
I didn't know we were wearing Christmas outfits. I'd have worn.
I told you like 2 weeks ago. I said, "Hey, we're gonna do a show. We're gonna do a Christmas outfit. What's gonna do?"
2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, bro. I would have wore a Christmas sweater.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody. This has been another episode of Rewind with Bro. We appreciate you. Have a happy holidays and be safe.
Peace.
Rob, have a great week. See you next week.